The American Geophysical Union's 2022 fall meeting is where science leads the future. For the first time calling Chicago home, thousands of attendees converge in Illinois to network, exchange research, and discuss all things Earth and space science. And AGU TV is here to cover it all. Welcome back to AGU TV and our exciting second day here at the 2022 fall meeting. I'm your host, Laura Krantz, and today we shift our focus to environmental justice. Straight ahead, we sit down with the incoming AGU President-elect Brandon Jones to talk about what priorities he has for his upcoming term. Plus, we travel all the way to Israel to see how the U.S. is collaborating with researchers there to solve critical challenges at the energy-water nexus. There will be something for everyone, and we want to make sure you don't miss a minute. You'll be able to find all the latest episodes and content of AGU TV on the in-house channels of our partner hotels, on our dedicated page on the AGU website, and of course, always on our Twitter and YouTube channels. Plenty of ways to watch. We start things off on this second day with AGU's incoming president-elect, who is working to advance undergraduate and graduate education programs in the geosciences. And starting in January of 2023, Brandon Jones will be taking on the role of AGU President-elect. He joins us now in studio. Brandon Jones, congratulations on your selection as President-elect.
Thank you so much. It is an exciting time, and I appreciate that the members elected me and have faith in my leadership. So we'll see what happens.
What do you hope to accomplish as you take on this role?
Oh my gosh.
Where to begin?
Yeah, where to begin. I'm just looking forward to working with the other elected leaders and of course the AGU staff to see how we can push forward the strategic plan and implement some of those activities to support the goals.
What are those goals? Can you elaborate a little on that strategic plan?
Sure. Collaboration is a big one. Of course, diversity and inclusion is a big one, and solution science. So yes, the importance of discovery and basic research, but how do we translate that to the needs of the community and society at large?
Yeah. And what are some of the challenges you think you're going to be facing?
I would say the traditional modes and models of educating and training scientists don't often include the skill sets to translate to the community or communicate or collaborate outside of disciplinary areas. So, there's some work to be done there. And then there's some work to be done in just what we're doing here, communicating the importance of science to the general public and how science can be useful in addressing issues. So.
Yeah, and that seems sort of a big obstacle is how do you get all the information and wonderful things that everyone's working on with AGU, who are part of AGU, out to the general public in a way where the general public was like, oh, this matters, this is important.
Exactly, and certainly from a federal funding agency perspective, we're in charge of stewarding taxpayer dollars, so we want to work with, we being, I'm currently at the National Science Foundation, but we work with professional societies and other organizations as a community in the research enterprise to get that information out to society. Yeah.
And talking about your role at the National Science Foundation, you've done a lot with diversity and inclusivity. How have you seen things change over the years that you've been working in that arena?
Sure, excellent question. As you mentioned, I'm a career Fed, you could say, so even before NSF, I was at the Environmental Protection Agency and doing similar work. But what I've seen change, for instance, here at AGU, when I first started coming to AGU, there was one diversity session, usually on Friday, the last day of the meeting in the afternoon. It was a 2-hour session. Now diversity is integrated throughout everything. I mean, there were so many different types of sessions, plenaries, et cetera, that there's no way to attend them all. So the scale and scope of what diversity, inclusion, equity means has just permeated through the community in really novel and exciting ways. So the change, the wave is here, and the early career scientists are really championing this move. They have a network. They're vocal, which I love, and a lot of energy. So the future is bright, I would say.
Yeah, and just based on some of the things I've read, the diversity isn't just about inclusivity, but also about people feeling safe going out in the field and doing their work. How do you address that issue?
That's a great point. You know, for the Earth System Sciences, so much, it doesn't matter what discipline, but so much of the work that we do happens in remote locations or outside, on vessels, aircraft, in the mountains, and and things of that nature. So there are ripe situations if there are individuals that behave badly for things to happen, and it has over time. And so what we're seeing now are institutions, projects, funding agencies paying attention to the safety of individuals who are conducting research, requiring safety plans, or working with institutions to come up with diversity plans, not just as a document, but an implementation strategy behind that, so that the culture change can begin to happen.
Yeah, it seems like this culture change kind of is underway based on what you were saying about the younger generation of scientists that are coming up and being more vocal and speaking their mind about these things. What do you hope to see happen in the next 5 years? Kind
of a general statement is to give voice to those that are doing this work, that have been doing it for their careers, or over the length of their careers, or even if it's someone new who's really interested in this, giving them the space and the place and the voice to do what it is they need to do, and to also amplify their message in safe ways, but in multiple ways as well.
So do you have a lot of hope for the future?
I do. The kind of work that I do, and even being involved here at AGU, I get to, fall meeting example, I get to connect with all of the students at the poster sessions, in their oral presentations, et cetera, that are doing this work, and then you realize, wow, they're out there. It's not this ephemeral kind of, oh yeah, the young people are doing things. No, I'm shaking their hands, I'm looking at the research that they're doing, and so I know it's happening. And so I can take that information and that energy back to, my family or the community or whomever, and say, no, this is a real thing, and it's happening. So the future is bright.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. We appreciate you coming on.
And thank you so much for the invitation. Glad to share.
In times of extreme climate calamities, the Bywater Institute at Tulane University wants communities to thrive with water. Let's see how they are using clinical trials for planetary health to diagnose and treat the challenges facing ecosystems.
At Tulane and at Bywater, we have 3 research programs. One is designing our future by water, the second is sharing our future by water, and the third is growing our future by water. So designing our future by water is taking science and engineering and mixing them together to understand how we design natural and built infrastructure in order to improve our climate adaptation, in particular in response to water-related disasters. Sharing our future by water is focused on water equity, and it involves access to clean water and sanitation, but also, especially here in the city of New Orleans, access to safe spaces from hurricane storms and floods. And the third is growing our future by water, and this is where we bring communities into the research portfolio. So I like to think of this as a place where we can study problems like climate change and health, and also how we can source those sorts of needs from local communities.
The Bywater Institute is fundamentally focused on bringing people together to come up with pragmatic solutions to the environmental challenges of our time.
In keeping with the international angle, we turn now to an amazing collaboration between the U.S. and Israel. Co-work evaluates, develops, and demonstrates new technologies to solve critical challenges at the energy-water nexus. Let's see how they do it.
Co-work is a large consortium that involves universities, national laboratories, water utilities, and nonprofit and for-profit organizations in the U.S. and Israel. We are seeking solutions that can satisfy both water, energy, and cost concerns across the entire water system. It has the ability to conduct high-quality materials research up to large-scale piloting at desalination and wastewater treatment facilities.
We're working in 3 major themes: water desalination, water treatment, nutrient recovery, and energy recovery. Altogether, we're improving wastewater treatment in a very sustainable way and reduce the impact of climate change.
Anything developed here can be applied anywhere around the world. The technologies we're working on will in the future allow for a better, more cost-effective and more efficient wastewater treatment even in remote places.
The AGU exhibit hall is the perfect spot to learn from leaders whose companies are advancing science at the exhibit hall. As the founder and CEO of Black in Marine Science, Dr. Tiara Moore has been working for years to highlight and amplify Black voices in the earth science community. And it all started with just one tweet. She's here now to discuss. Let's start with what that tweet was. We're joined now in studio by Tiara Moore. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, so I hear that there's one tweet that got all of this started. Can you tell me what that was and when?
Oh man, so I should know the exact date. But it was in August of 2020. I was tweeting one day. It was a lot of things that went down in 2020. We all know. And so I really tweeted like, hey, where are the other Black marine scientists at? There had been a lot of outreach weeks of Black in STEM, different things going on. And I
Black
said, hey,
in birding.
yeah, Black Birders Week, Black in Physics, Black in Astro, Black in Chem, anything that had to do with like STEM, there was this outreach week. And I was like, oh, well, where's Black in Marine Science Week? You know, where are we at? And people responded and they said, once you tweet something, you didn't have to do it, right? So they're like, okay, this would be cool if we had this week, but can you plan it? And I'm like, oh, I was just tweeting, you know? But then it turned into this whole thing. Like we were able to, you know, get folks who joined and became organizers, planned a whole week with panels and keynotes and workshops, and really was just saying, hey, we exist in this space. And it was bigger, I think, than I could have imagined. And we've just been growing from there.
Yeah, I was wondering about the reaction to it. Did you get a lot of support? Did you get a lot of like people kind of coming out of the woodwork and being like, yes, finally?
Yeah, so how we started the week was we had this hashtag BIMS roll call. And what that was to say, hey, just drop a photo of yourself and introduce yourself if you are a Black marine scientist. Just tell us where you are. And that is what lit the fire. So I did one like, hey, you know, I was a postdoc at the time working at University of Washington, and just did a picture of me maybe in the lab. And then other people started posting and posting and posting. And there was all of these photos of these Black marine scientists all over the world. So where I was like, yo, where y'all come from? Like, what is this? And so that was a huge amount of support. So just from the community, it was like, wow, there's more of us. But then on the support base, we actually raised $25,000 from individual donations, some organizations that wanted to support what we were doing. And so that's when I really knew like, oh, this is much bigger than a tweet.
Yeah.
This could be something huge.
So the tweet kind of kicks it off, and then you have this Black and Marine Science Week.
Yes.
Where has it gone from there? Like what, you know, that was 2020, and we're now headed into 2023. Like what happened since?
So since that 2020 tweet, we have been fundraising. We have been largely supported. I would love to shout out the David and Lucille Packard Foundation. They gave us our first, I say, big money that said, hey, go do some work, you know, stop scraping pennies. Actually put some resources behind this outreach work that you're doing. We just had our third Black and Marine Science Week, actually a couple of weeks ago. So all of that content and all of the workshops and panels and stuff we had is available on our YouTube channel. So just Black and Marine Science on YouTube. And we've also been able to do more programming. So we've been offering the scuba dive class where we're able to get students scuba dive certified free of charge, take them on research opportunities like coral restoration or shark tagging. So really trying to break down a lot of those barriers that led to the tweet in the first place. Like, why am I the only Black person in this lab or in this room? Where are the other folks that look like me? And so now we have an organization and the resources to be able to change all of that.
And it's not just about inclusivity either, it's about feeling safe in the field, basically.
Exactly, being included, but also exactly feeling welcome, feeling like you belong. So what we have found, largely with Black and Marine Science, is that we have had allies that wanted to be a part. And so we actually started our ally memberships and our organizational memberships. And what that looks like is, so we already have our BIMS members network. We have about 300 members now in 30 different countries. But we've opened a space on our membership to have our allies come in to be able to be a part of that network, to be able to say, hey, we support Black and Marine Science. So when you become a BIMS member, ally member, you actually support another BIMS member. So say a BIMS member can't afford to pay or doesn't have the finances, they can apply for a scholarship, and that's how that is paid for. And then also gives us access to the Safe Space Network that we have for our allies, that they can come together and brainstorm and talk about best practices without saying, hey, let me pick your brain. Hey, let me put you through another 15-minute meeting asking the same questions. They can use, each other's advice, and then also be able to post on our job board so we can make sure we have safe spaces that we're sending BIMS members in to work. So it's really a full process for the membership to be able to have, like I said, allies as well as organizations be involved in what BIMS is doing and actually supporting the work. We also now have the capacity to vet your organization. Should I post your job on my job board? Is this a safe space? If a BIMS member applies there, are they going to get harassed? How can I let them know that they aren't? And that's my commitment to the BIMS members. And so through these partnerships, that really allows us to have the capacity to do that and almost give these allies and organizations the BIMS seal of approval.
It's a cool program. Tiara Moore, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
If just 10% of Greenland's ice sheet were to melt, the sea level changes would be disastrous for coastal communities worldwide. Green Drill at Columbia University's Climate School is studying the sensitivity of this ice sheet to develop a model for understanding how melting ice sheets will affect the world before it's too late.
The Greenland ice sheet is really of particular importance. If it melts tomorrow, seas will be 7 meters higher, which is enormous. We are now dealing with centimeters, and it's already a problem.
If a small part of Greenland melts, it's really impactful. So for example, 10% of the Greenland ice sheet is 70 centimeters, which is more than 2 feet.
The Green Drill mission overall is drilling through kilometers of ice, retrieving bedrock samples, and these bedrock samples contain the information about when was the ice sheet the last time smaller. It will tell us this particular spot, how vulnerable is this element to ongoing and future warming.
We can't just focus on problems. We really need to get to that next level and deal with solutions. And I think Green Drill is the answer for that.
From right here in her home city of Chicago, Amaris Alanis Ribeiro works to create environmental justice approaches in engaging immigrant communities. She sits down with us here in studio with more. And we're joined now in studio by Amaris Alanis Ribeiro. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about the program that you're doing right here in Chicago.
I'm running a nature center in Chicago. It's called North Park Village Nature Center. It's under the Chicago Park District umbrella. And we are running a program called Co-Creating a Climate Migrant Environment. We are thinking about climate change, the urgency of climate change, but also the change in the demographics of the community. We're seeing a lot of more recent immigrants moving into the neighborhoods just a few miles away. So we want to engage the community in having these climate change conversations.
And how are you engaging them? Like, what does that involve?
We're working with science partners. We're working with Thriving Earth Exchange. It's an organization that helps support community science projects. So we have community leaders, we have scientists as partners, the local university and the nature center. All of us, we're starting first by addressing our assumptions. about how we view the community, about how we view climate migrants, before we just jump into the community. I think it's this new model for us to be able to understand that the community already has knowledge, less of a model where traditional approaches where scientists come in and maybe they work on mitigation, and now it's more complex than that.
What are some of the long-term goals? What do you hope that this relationship and these partnerships with people and science community will be able to accomplish?
Yeah, I think some of our goals will be for us to kind of uplift this narrative. Climate migrant narratives are missing in science. I think that, a lot of people haven't really, started, talking about that and understanding this complex issue of migration. And so I think we want to uplift that narrative. I think another goal for us is to have scientists feel like they're able to work with the community to be able to co-design their own research, to ask their own questions, community solving, their problems, the community being at the center, and just kind of like more equitable approaches. But ultimately, I think at a larger scale, I think to me it's a bigger shift of how we live in our ecosystems, of how we live with community, how we live with our environment, how we are using ancestral knowledge and making sure that we're better in balance in nature in a reciprocal relationship.
Do you see what you're doing here in Chicago as being a model for other communities and not just in the United States but perhaps globally?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, especially because we're working with a global climate migrant environment, and I do think that we can be a model. I think some people are beginning to kind of like think about how they engage with community, and the demographics are changing faster than we as scientists are able to catch up with that. So I do hope for us to be a model, to be able to share and disseminate, again, with the community's permission, whether they choose to share and disseminate, their stories, their narratives, whatever types of new models of research and co-designing work that we do with the community. I think that would be something that we would love for others to learn about.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
The vast importance of AGU connects Earth to space, and responsible for that connection are the AGU attendees. Let's find out what they feel is the most important aspect of AGU.
The most important thing for me with the AGU is just getting to see all the people that I collaborate with throughout the year or that I might collaborate with in the future. So I met my PhD supervisor at the AGU years ago, so that was really valuable for me. Kind of changed the trajectory of what I was working on.
It gives opportunities for undergraduates like me to see kind of what possibilities are out there when it comes to application for the science that they love, and see the different posters people have been dedicating months and years of their lives to create, and booths that people have spent years creating businesses to show off is really inspiring.
AGU sort of brings everyone together. Like you have geology, geophysics, meteorology, all of the earth sciences are together here. So I'm here to present my research to others and gain feedback about my work from other brilliant scientists here at AGU.
I hope that they continue to create a positive network to encourage more education to one another and to inspire more people to push their own research further. It's fun to meet with like-minded individuals and really get to explore each other's passions and grow your own.
Some of the stuff that I'm most interested in seeing that I don't see in other conferences that are technical is also taking a look at inclusivity or education, the mental health aspects of climate change and stuff like that. I think that it looks at science in a holistic manner as it should be, and that's why I think AGU is important.
Driver's Horizon 2020 project consists of multidisciplinary teams of 25 experts from 11 countries in Europe, South America, China, and the USA, building on EU efforts to investigate how climate change has cascading impacts on biodiversity, ecosystem functions, and ecosystem services of dry river networks.
Driver is organized around 5 work packages: hydrology, biodiversity, biogeochemistry, socioeconomy, and adaptive management. Altogether, we will translate the effect of climate change onto the functional integrity of drying river networks. We managed to model flow intermittence across 6 different drying river networks using spatially distributed hydrological models.
The idea is to provide streamflow intermittence data all over Europe. This data can then be used for quantification of current and future impacts of climate change and the impacts on biodiversity or ecosystem functions and services.
Driver is working on providing new techniques, new tools, new nature-based solutions to be adapted to temporary rivers for water managers in order to preserve ecosystems in our rivers and also to preserve water users for human activity.
That brings day 2 to a close. We hope you've enjoyed today's focus on environmental justice as we've keyed in on the many efforts by AGU to protect our planet. There is still much more to come this week from here in Chicago, but if you missed any of today's episode, remember, you can always catch up. There will be something for everyone, and we want to make sure you don't miss a minute. You'll be able to find all the latest episodes and content of AGU TV on the in-house channels of our partner hotels, on our dedicated page on the AGU website, and of course, always on our Twitter and YouTube channels. Plenty of ways to watch. Thanks for joining us here today on AGU TV. We look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow. Have a great one.